Hey, welcome to the 24 Down podcast. It's Booty here, and we have a really awesome episode coming up right now. And we have none other but JP, John P. What else? John Peasy, John Perez, and he's here with us today, and we're so excited. Episode 26, and I'm gonna let him take it away. I mean, how you doing, John?
I'm doing well.
That's awesome, man. So
It's good.
yeah,
It's
I
great to
mean.
see you.
Yeah, definitely great to see you, man. And so John was on the floor, 24 down his freshman year into his sophomore year for half the year. And really, where we want to take it off right now is like, the years that you were at Valley Forge, but also maybe you could start off with the reason why you moved off of the floor and then give us an update from, graduating college till now.
Sounds good. Uh, well, yeah, I was on the floor my freshman year. It was your freshman year as well. And my second semester, my roommate was Walter. And I was just there half a year. That's the year that I met my roommate for the rest of the time I was at Valley Forge, which was Michael Piscatelli. He was actually in 24 up his first semester. And he had a terrible roommate, I believe. And so, we just kind of really hit it off. And so we were like, we should room together. I liked Walter. I didn't have any issues with him, but we just really hit it off. So we wanted to room together. Um, I was trying to convince him to let's stay at 24. But I don't know. We just were wanting our own bathroom. I think that was kind of the main reason at the time. We knew some people at Four Down. That was the other reason. We thought we would be hanging out with them a lot. That actually really didn't even happen, but um, that was kind of the main reason. And so we just kind of came to a compromise. We're like, all right, let's go try this other floor. I mean, we bounced the idea of Buongiorno as well, but that was just a little too rich for our blood.
Yeah, man. Just a couple of update, just follow up questions there. I know you mentioned Walter, but before Walter, you had Franco,
Hmm.
and you and Franco lived on the floor. I think he lived there for a semester or a year, and I know that he kind of kept to himself. And you guys kind of knew each other from childhood. Even did you guys go to the
Hmm.
same school, go to the same church, stuff like that?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I know you guys
I
are really close. And I remember I actually met with him a week or two ago, and he was saying he thought he would be the social butterfly, but you turned out to be the social butterfly, just meeting people and everything like that. Did,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually know each other since we were 5 years old.
Wow.
I came to the U.S. From my parents are from Colombia. I was born in Venezuela, but I lived in Colombia my last year before I came to the U.S. And I met him in my kindergarten class. My his mom, his family speaks Spanish as well. He's from Uruguay, and his mom befriended my mom, and they started inviting us to church. Kind of maybe when I was like in first or second grade. I went to a couple of VBSs at his church. And then when I was 10, I got saved through going to like a home meeting from someone at his church. And they like always invited us. They would drive us to church. And so my mom and I got saved through his family. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then tell me a little bit about someone that was at your church and kind of a story about that famous person. You want to talk about
uh,
that a little?
yeah, of course. That was many years later. It was actually at a different church. We had switched churches to a church in Connecticut once I became a teenager, and I was a huge Knicks fan. I grew up in New Rochelle, not too far from Yonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, um, and Allen Houston, he was an all-star shooting guard for the New York Knicks. Signed a huge multi-millionaire contract at some point in his career on the Knicks. And he used to go to my church in Greenwich, Connecticut. and we didn't really see him that much. I guess, he traveled a lot. He was, but occasionally we would see him at church. He didn't know who I was, but he knew Franco. And I was there for his son's. He presented his son, like as a child presentation. So I had seen him a few times, but when I was sophomore, my second semester, I wasn't going to be able to stay at school. Or actually, trying to think when it was. Second semester, first year, he I wasn't going to be able to stay at school, and Franco kind of coordinated him and his family. They knew him, so I think they reached out to him, and he was able to pay for my semester of Valley Forge, and so I was able to stay. It was a possibility that he was going to continue to do that, kind of like as a scholarship, but it didn't work out. I'm not too sure. I wasn't even supposed to know that he paid for my school, but Valley Forge sent me a receipt in the mail to my Valley Forge mailbox. So, I mean, that's kind of an error on their part. But I received that. I never told Franco. I think he still doesn't know that I know. So if he watches this, he'll find out that I did find out. Yeah. I'm very thankful, and just feel really blessed that God, was faithful and provided that I was able to continue to stay at Valley Forge. And then my second semester of my second year, that's when I started to get the scholarship through this lady who helps out immigrants in the Bethlehem area, which is near where I lived in Allentown at the time. And so she then covered the rest of my schooling and even graduate school.
Wow. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Man, you've been blessed, bro. That's awesome. That's cool. But you're like a really good guy, man. And if anyone deserved it, I think maybe it would be you. So you're just a really sweet, good guy. And then
thank you. I really don't feel like I do. I mean, I don't feel like, anything from God is something that, we don't deserve, but he's faithful even when we don't deserve it.
Yeah, thank God for his grace.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I forgot you were actually roommates with Walter, because me and Walter, he was there for our second semester and our third semester. And he became my best friend really quick. Me and him, we hung out all the time. So I was always in your room and everything. Yep. And remember when he broke his ankle? Was that like after you left, or that was that semester? Maybe it was the other semester.
Yeah, it was.
Next one.
It might have been when I was still his roommate. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe, because I think that that third semester I was the ARA on 24 down, and so I would always be in your room with him and stuff and everything. But yeah, those are some good times, man. Yeah, and then you mentioned
to sleep on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he liked doing that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the bathroom. I mean, yeah, definitely 24 down. We didn't really have communal bathrooms. However, they were communal bathrooms, even though we had, different showers and everything like that. I think that, it kind of gave for more community, but at the same time, you didn't have a lot of privacy. And I think maybe you wanted a little more privacy. And, but yeah, man, we'll get into some bathroom stuff a little later.
Do you remember that? Like, do you remember how I was in the bathroom?
I don't know.
Okay. Tim knows. He probably remembers, and I think Pete does too. So every time that I needed to go poop, I had to take a disinfectant spray, and I would go spray the toilet. I was a bit of a germaphobe when it came to bathroom things. Yeah. And so I always used the bathroom that was like the oldest and the one that people didn't really use. I used that for showering, and I used that to use the bathroom. And Tim kind of would say, oh, that's John's bathroom. And I kept my spray there eventually. Then I was just like, oh, I'll just leave it here. Everyone knew that it was mine. When Samsung then was on the floor my second year, I think a few times he would shower in the shower next to me. I wasn't used to that,
Mhm.
but you know, I welcomed it. It was fun.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that now. You pretty much you put that in my head. I remember that now.
Yeah.
That's fun, man. But yeah, so I mean, so the rest of the years you stayed at pretty much four down.
Yes.
Okay,
Same
cool.
same room actually the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, I remember you and Mike. I mean, you guys were inseparable. You guys were always together, going to meals together, classes, chapel all the
Hmm.
time. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, and he was a good guy, and you guys got along really well. That was cool. And then pretty much you graduated. When did you graduate? Did you graduate 2008?
Yes,
Okay.
2008.
So, I mean, I'm going to go on mute. I want you to just take me from 2008 till now as best as you can. Just give us an update of what's going on.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, 2008, I graduated. Mike actually did not. He had a few classes left because he was a transfer from Penn State, or Penn State Worthington, I think it was, the one that's near Scranton. And he, needed another semester, and then he did. I think he did most of it online or whatever. But me and Elise, we graduated at the same time. That's ended up becoming his wife. And they just had a baby actually yesterday, so that's cool. Um, but yeah, after school, I had applied to graduate school for marriage and family therapy. Um, After my first year, I had switched to pastoral counseling, so I was looking. I felt called to be a therapist, and that was the route I went. I wasn't sure if that was going to be in a church or what that was going to look like, but I definitely felt led to the school that I ended up going to, which is Evangelical Theological Seminary in Myerstown, which is near Lebanon. And that's where I ended up meeting my wife at a AG church in Lebanon. Um, and so that was 2008. I lived on campus. It was like a townhouse situation, and I had a roommate there. And those years they were really impactful to me because instead of going to therapy myself, the program provided that by the things I was learning and the things I was had to write about. It was very reflective on my upbringing and just like the issues that I dealt with my family. My dad was an alcoholic. He had issues with alcohol, different parts of my childhood, and so that was something that I was able to flesh out and kind of work through. And then obviously the immigration issue that was still kind of lingering. So there was a lot that I still held in, and it affected my confidence. But once I got married with my wife, and that kind of got resolved, and then just the things that I was able to work through in therapy, because I had to. That was part of one of the requirements for the program is you had to do your own personal therapy. You had to be able to work on stuff for yourself that you're going to be able to work through with people. If you're not able to go there yourself, how are you going to help people go there as well? So it was a great program, a Christian program, and it was great. When my wife, she did not like me when we first met, not in that way. She just liked me as a friend. She wasn't in a place to really look at relationships at that time, but I kind of grew on her, and as friends, it turned into her having feelings for me, and then we ended up we were gonna hang out with. We had started hanging out with as a group, some people from church that were young adults, and the one night I wasn't at my in Myerstown. I was actually hanging out with Mike in Harrisburg. uh, we were with a different friend there, and so I wasn't with my normal roommate, and uh, she wanted to like watch football or something, and we ended up going on a date instead. Well, we ended up going to the movies instead, which ended up becoming a date, even though it wasn't like an official date. It was kind of awkward at the end, with the hug and stuff. But she gave me another chance, and yeah, I don't know. It there was some sparks, and yeah, it developed into something more. And so we got married. Not It was quick. Maybe 8 months later. No, it was like 12 months later. 12 months later. But it was quick. I mean, it was a short engagement. We got engaged in like October, and we were married in December. So it was quick. You know, she was really understanding of the immigration stuff. I mean, at first she, you know, was like, what, you know, she didn't know what to think. But you know, it's just how as she reflected on that, she was more open to it. And then, you know, God just was in that, with me applying. I did a lot of research. My case wasn't such an easy case, just because I came, with my mom, and we didn't come with a visa, so it was just kind of more complicated. But because we came so long ago, you know, there was like we were grandfathered into the old laws, you know, some technical stuff. And so it worked out that, you know, they did approve, and I was able to move forward through the process of becoming a resident and then a citizen eventually. And then we were married for a few years, and then we had our daughter. We actually had some difficulty conceiving. And at this time, we had moved to Ephrata. I had started working at a counseling agency there. My wife worked at, she's a speech therapist, so she was, you know, doing that. And we went to Pete's wedding, and I saw you there. Maybe like a year or two later, you know, we had seen Pete a few times, him and his wife then, and they actually prayed for us because we were having some fertility issues, and you know, God had answered our prayer and was faithful with that as well. And then we had my son. No issues there. We didn't think it was going to be so quick. And so he was conceived, and then my wife's expecting actually another baby. She having another girl. She's due in December, Christmas Day, but I think she'll come before then. And that was kind of a surprise. We weren't expecting that, and we think this will be definitely the last one. You know, because I heard you on your podcast, and I agree. You know, kids, you know, it is hard work, even though they're great and it's a blessing. You know, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, being a father, but it's a lot. I've been working at the agency I'm working now, Community Services Group in Lancaster, for the last 2 years. And I just moved to a new house from Ephrata, closer to Lancaster City, but still, you know, in the country. And I've been working as an adjunct professor at Valley Forge for the last few years. Maybe since my daughter was born, so maybe it's been like 5 years. So not that many classes though, you know, maybe 1 or 2 every semester, but sometimes there's a semester that gets skipped. So it just kind of depends on like how many people sign up for online classes. So I teach marriage and family therapy, grief, death, and dying, crisis intervention, pastoral counseling. I think that might be all of them. So like 4 or 5 classes, different types, but usually not all at the same time. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I got a lot of follow-up questions, but I want to start with the last one because this is probably for me the most interesting one, and maybe for all of us that may be listening right now, that you went to Valley Forge, and then now you're teaching at Valley Forge as a professor. That's pretty awesome. How did that come to be? Is it something that you pursued, or did they pursue you?
Mm-hmm. Well, I had applied to a different position, but well, actually, I pursued it first. So I applied as an adjunct professor. I never heard back from them ever. And then I had applied for like, I think it was like an RD position. And I'm glad I didn't get it. Now looking back at everything that's transpired. But at the time, I don't think my daughter was born yet, or maybe she was little. And I was just, you know, feeling God was stirring something different, you know, that I needed to do something different and leave the agency I was working at. And so, I looked into that and I went to kind of the final stage. It was just me and this other person. And at the last minute, she chose the other person. And so I was really shocked and I was like disappointed. But I was
Was that Jenny Duncan?
no,
Okay.
no, which I know her. I was on the missions committee the 1 year at Valley Forge, and so I know Jenny. She had left, and it was someone else that was in student life, and so she was kind of in charge of the RDs. Her
Was
name
other
is
guy? Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Gail, I
Okay,
think.
okay, yeah, yeah. I know Dr.
Yeah.
Gale, I think. Now, do
She's
you know if
really
the
really nice lady. I mean, she seemed
yeah,
really amazing.
do you know if the other guy was Anthony Ross? Do you know what the guy's name was at all?
I don't. I
Okay,
think it was like an assistant. He did something with coaching too,
okay.
but I don't think he was there that long.
Oh wow.
So I think he like moved on. But anyway, she recommended me though. So she didn't hire me for that, but she did recommend me for the as an adjunct. And so I was like, and so I started doing that, and I was like, oh, this is I really like it. Um,
So you live about an hour from the school, but are you usually doing online courses or do you do some in person?
I haven't done any in person. Yeah, I guess I'm about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. I was closer when in effort. It's probably like 45 minutes.
That's where Pete's from, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I can get there in 45 minutes. Now that there's an exit on 76. So I think when Pete, when we were in school, that wasn't there. And so now and there's an exit in Phoenixville off,
Hmm.
through
Oh
through
wow,
76.
that's
And
good.
I don't think that was present there before. But yeah, I guess it would be like an hour, maybe an hour and 5 minutes. Yeah.
That's cool,
But I
man.
haven't done any in person.
Yeah. Do you want to like be a full-fledged professor one day?
I don't know. If God wants me to do it, then yes, but I don't know. I enjoy what I'm doing now, counseling, and I've got some opportunities there that are looking good.
Hmm.
I'm in the quality improvement area, kind of. I chart audit the other therapists. I work. There's I don't know some like leadership training, and there's like different opportunities I think in the future.
That's
So
cool.
we'll see.
That's cool. Is it a Christian organization or just is it a secular organization?
It's a secular organization.
Okay.
Yeah, there
You
seem to be some Christians in leadership and stuff, but they do seem to care about the people that they're serving.
mhm.
The agency I worked at before did seem very money oriented. It was all about profits. They didn't really care about their people they were that they were serving. Or I mean, I'm sure they did a little bit, but it was more about profits, and
Yeah.
you didn't feel valued as a therapist, as an employee.
Yeah. Do you do any like freelance stuff or pro bono stuff on the side, or you're not supposed to do that?
Um, I have in the past, but it's been a while. So like at my church, I've tried to, do some like premarital counseling or like an individual, but usually it doesn't work out because, people they just want to see their pastor, even though they can see that, you know, I have some background, and I'm a Christian as well. And I don't know, they'd rather see their pastor, or they'd want to see someone in the like go to somewhere,
Hmm.
like not just someone that goes to the church.
Yeah. Even though you got the credentials, that's messed up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or they just like there's not that commitment level because they're not paying for it, and it's not anything that they're um, yeah, and it is kind of a dual relationship sometimes with counseling isn't the best,
Hmm.
which I know is a challenge for pastors because that's these people, they can be your friends, but they're also in your congregation, and you have to do counseling, and
Hmm.
like it can make it awkward
Yeah.
depending on
And
the situations.
yeah, yeah. And then just going backwards, You talked about having, you guys having some fertility issues and everything. And I would say, man, sometimes we don't like to talk about our problems. I know you're a humble guy, and you talk about whatever. You talked about many things already. And one of the things is fertility issues, man, because one of our brothers in our 24 down family is dealing with a little something like this as well with his wife. And just, recently, the past week or so. And I've even had, me and Joy, we actually had some fertility issues as well. And it's devastating.
Yeah,
It can wreck
it
you,
was
man.
tough.
Yeah. And it really wrecks the woman a little more, I think, than the man, because the woman feels like it's her fault, it's her body, all that stuff. And so, what would you say to anyone that's kind of going through something like that right now?
I mean, yeah, it really is challenging. I mean, it breaks your heart. I mean, you're just like, this is devastation. You have, just, and you're at the same time, you're like, should I be grieving this dream? Will it ever happen? And I would just say, for those people, you got to really lean towards God and get strength from Him. And I mean, I look back at that time, and it was a growing experience of getting closer to God, and just, receiving that strength that He had. And He had a plan. It wasn't the time. And I couldn't make sense of it at the time. And it was just really difficult. But yeah, and you got to lean on each other too as a couple. You got to make sure that you're talking about it, that you're, being there for your wife, being, having cry, for a shoulder for her to cry on, and also being vulnerable with her, because she knows that hurts you too. And I guess that's the part, as men, sometimes we might not want to be vulnerable, or we want to fix the problem, and we see our wives hurting and we want to fix it, but we can't fix that. That's something we have to just listen, and reflect back, the pain that you're hearing her have, and just like lean on God, and really grow as a couple, and then also with your relationship with God, and then reach out to people in your church and friends. I mean, that's 24 community is just amazing. I've been listening to podcasts. I mean, that's another resource, someone that you feel that you can talk with, that might have dealt with it, or is just someone that you, respect, and will have your back, and will be there to pray with you.
Yeah, man. I think you hit it right on the head, because I would say the same thing, and it's like when you're in that place and you don't have kids, you're like, exactly, does God want me to have kids?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like He told me He does all this stuff, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just start doubting Him, you start doubting the plan.
Yep.
And just like you said, it's like, we want to fix it as men, but really we just need to be there. We just need to be there,
Mm-hmm.
be present, if you ever go
Yep.
through any of these problems. And a lot of times we say, if we try to say something, we say something stupid and get on their nerves, or
Yeah.
we just have to be there. Like you said, a shoulder to cry on, be present. Also
Mm-hmm.
let them know how we're feeling, because sometimes we just suck it up. But yeah, man. And sometimes you don't feel as much as she does, but you
Yeah.
just, be truthful with it. But yeah, that was great, man. That's a husband, father, and therapist that's been through it, and professor. All right, right there. So yeah, man. You were talking about immigration, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
just want you to touch on it a little bit, because I actually forgot about that until you said it. Now, whenever the Dreamers come up, whenever I hear anything about the Dreamers, I remember you telling me about it for the first time, but
Mm-hmm.
also first time that I actually learned that, I don't know what the term is. I don't want to, put you down or
Mm-hmm.
anything, but pretty much that obviously it came from another country. I guess, would it be illegal immigration? Would that be the term? Put you,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the broader term, I guess, for
yeah,
the individual. Undocumented immigrant is
undocumented. There
is
you go.
the
That's what I'm
is
looking
the
for.
term that I like the best,
Yeah, yeah,
going through it. But I mean,
yeah.
it is illegal immigration.
So definitely, I'll use
Yeah.
the undocumented. The first time I heard about it, I think this was our first year. This probably was our first year. Remember, we, I don't know which way it was. You let me know. I remember Ray Lynn. If you guys, some of you guys remember Ray Lynn and Ronell, they actually got married. They got 2 kids and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We still keep in touch. I can't wait to get him on the podcast. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, Ray Lynn got a job at Wendy's that was right down the road from Valley
Uh-huh.
Forge. Was it you or me that got it next and then got you or me the job next? I can't remember. Was it me that got the job and then
I
I
think
got you a job?
I think you got me the job.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. And they always start you on the fry station. I remember you on the fry station with your visor. I think you had maybe you had the hat. I had the visor. And
Yeah,
so,
we
yeah,
did. You
man.
you drove me there. I mean, we didn't
Yeah,
work that many times together, but you drove me a few times. And I think
yeah.
we did work at the same shifts a few times.
So it was pretty cool knowing people that, and then we were good. We were pretty good. The bosses liked us and stuff, and they liked
Yeah.
hiring people from the college, which was cool. But I remember that's the first time like that you told me that, yeah, man, I'm undocumented, bro, and I don't even have like a social security number. And I was like, oh shoot, like I never heard of that before. That was my first time that I heard that, and like I just had like this heart for you. I was like, yo, man, I gotta really help my friend out here, and somehow some way you still got the job and everything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
but just tell me a little bit about your story and about obviously you came here with your parents, you were young, and growing up, and now, I mean, I was going to ask you how you got your citizenship, but it was pretty much through marriage then, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so tell us just a little bit more about that
Sure.
situation. Yeah.
Sure. So I came to the U.S. when I was 5, and my dad had come here a year before. I guess the reason that they decided to move here was a kind of a more tragic story. I probably shared that with you at the time. But my sister died when I was uh, two, two. Yeah, I think it was 2. A few months from being 3. I think that's how it went down. Yeah, and she was 6 years old, and my dad was the driver. He was not drinking, but a drunk driver hit us. So this was in Venezuela. That's the country I was actually born in, but both my parents are from Colombia, so I consider myself Colombian by culture and ethnicity. And so, so my dad was the driver, my mom was in the car, I was in the car, and my sister and my uncle. My uncle was 16. He shared the same first name as me and the same last name, and we have different middle names. And he he and my sister died in a car accident. So it was on the highway. They didn't have any seatbelts in the back seat in Venezuela at that time. So we were all I was on my grandma's lap, I believe, and my sister was on my uncle's lap. And so I won't get too into like the specifics of how they died, but they were asleep, and so he wasn't able to really hold her, so that was kind of part of it. And then debris was part of why he died. It hit the left side of the car. My dad had to be hospitalized for many months, and so he missed my sister's funeral. So it was very devastating for both my mom and dad, obviously, and the rest of the family. I was 2, but I guess it did impact me too, because at 2 you do know what's going on a little bit, and your sister's gone now, and so even though I don't have memory of the accident or her, I think it did do have an impact on me. And I see videos, pictures, so like I kind of have those things, as like not real memories, but and she was a really good sister from what I hear and what I observed in the videos. But that just kind of changed everything for my family. They were pretty well off. My dad had a good job, and they had recently won the lottery. Not like big time lottery here, but it was he bought a new car with it. They were doing well. We even had like a maid. And we were living in a nice part of Venezuela, in the capital. And so that all changed due to that, because there were some legal fees and there were some legal things, and the lawyer they got robbed them, their money was gone. And so he didn't end up doing anything through the courts because he just kind of took the money and didn't do anything with the case. And so there's a lot of injustice. So, I mean, that guy had, I think, maybe a month or two of jail, and that's it. And he was very intoxicated. And so that led to my dad going alcohol to grieve. He did not grieve with my mom. My mom turned to her family. She was Catholic at the time, so she met with a priest. She said, well, it was helpful. It was like through counseling. And then, so they kind of grew apart. And so that led to him going to Colombia, being with his family, seeing if that helps. They couldn't stand him because of the drinking. And then that led to him coming back to Venezuela, and then he applied for a visa to come to the US, get a fresh start. Maybe that will help, kind of the grief. And he got it. And so he came, but he didn't apply with all of us because he thought maybe they wouldn't say yes. So then me and my mom stayed behind, and then we went to Colombia, and that's where I stayed. I was there for like a year when I was like 4 to 5 years old. And then he arranged for us to go. And then I had no decision. I was only 5 years old. I did not decide to be in the country illegally. And so that that's a lot of what the dreamers are, is they come as kids or young teenagers because their parents brought them, and they didn't choose to do anything wrong. They grow up and they're just like any of us, like they're just as American as anyone else, because that's all they know, or that's most of what they know. And so then, growing up in New Rochelle, it's just normal. I learned English quickly because you're only 5 years old. And then, that became more of my dominant language, obviously, through the years. And then when it came to high school, that's when it kind of started affecting me. I couldn't get a license. And then college, I was like, how am I going to pay for this? I can't qualify for loans or anything. And so, God just made a way. And then they moved to Allentown my senior year of high school. And that's when, I wasn't around Franco anymore. And then I ended up going to Valley Forge, and then he decided he was going to go there too. And so that's how we ended up there. But yeah, I guess during college, it was tough because they had done legislation that, almost passed a few times. And it didn't, there was, and George W. Bush, he really wanted, to do something. That's a president I really looked up to, because he did want that. September 11th
a Republican
made that very
too.
difficult.
Yeah.
What was that?
A Republican wanted to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But September 11th made that hard. There was a lot more fear for foreigners, and it was just hard to make anything happen. He tried his last, at the end of his presidency, because it was a little further away from September 11th, but it wasn't able to happen. And then it just kind of it became more difficult, than the years later than that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I forgot. I don't know if you told me that, but I forgot all about, your early life and your sister and everything, man. It's an amazing, tragic, yet successful story, because here you are today, man. And bro, you're pretty much, would you say you're living the American dream right now, pretty much?
Yeah, I guess the traditional,
Mhm.
that view. Yeah, I mean, I feel very blessed, and I have some cousins that are here from Venezuela now, and they're kind of in this, not in, they're getting there. Some of my aunts have been petitioned by my aunt, who's an American citizen. She lives in New York still. And so they're kind of just waiting for the paperwork to come in the mail. They should be able to kind of get on the road to having all the paperwork that they need. But I have some cousins that aren't quite there yet. And so just one, actually. And he just feels he's like, feel blessed. I'm just, finding work, and, he's he's done some roofing, some construction, and he came here and helped me with, because I'm not handy, and he was helping me with moving and just doing some stuff around the house. It's a
That's
blessing.
awesome. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. It's great to hear how it started and where you are today. And obviously, we go through our troubles each day and struggles each day. But I mean, I'm glad to hear like a success story. You know what I mean? So that's awesome. We are about to get into some questions, but you did mention something when you gave your update. You mentioned the hug. Now you gotta explain this hug, man. Okay, with your soon to be wife and everything. What made it awkward? Let us know.
All right. So this, I don't even know if this is a date. This is what I'm thinking the whole time. So, because we've just been friends the whole time. We've been hanging out with other people. It was the first time we ever hung out, just me and her. And so we went to see some movie, and then I was like, "Do you want to get some food?" Even though I wasn't hungry. So we ended up going to Friendlies, and so then we ate, and it was normal conversation, and then we go to our cars, and then we're saying goodbye, and she goes in for a hug, and I have my hand out to give her, because I was a big handshaker, and so I wasn't gonna assume I was getting, that I wasn't gonna do that. Um, so it was kind of like and then when I saw she did that, then it was like a hug, but it was an awkward hug because I hadn't fully committed to it, and so she said it was a terrible hug and that it was awkward. And after the fact, she told me this.
But it's definitely better that she went in for the hug and not you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. So I mean
exactly.
that showed you that she was interested in stuff, and so
Hmm.
yeah, that's cool, man.
Well, I
That's,
thought so.
yeah.
And then she stood me up. We were gonna hang out again, and she
Wow.
just stood me up, and I was like, I let a day or two pass, and then she wrote me. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My grandfather came into town," which then I find out it was a lie.
Wow.
She
That's
just she just was nervous, and she thought it would be awkward again because of the hug.
yeah.
But then I guess she thought about it and was like, "No, let me give this another shot." So then the next time we hung out, then things were normal, and I was more smooth then.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah, bro. Awesome update, man. I'm so happy to hear of all those awesome things that, are just going on in your life right now, man. And, the things that you've overcome is just awesome. So, I think you're the true definition of a dreamer. You didn't mean to come here. You had no decision to come here. However, you find yourself in America. And then, I see it as you live in the dream, man. Even if it's not an American dream, it's the dream. And so it's really awesome. And one day I think I do want to make it back to Valley Forge. Maybe we'll be working there together. I don't know. It's just something in my mind that I never, I don't think I told many people this. Maybe I told Tim, maybe I told you. I don't know who I told, but maybe those first year people, because you know how we had start teams and stuff, the start
Hmm.
team groups and everything. And we would have there was like one day where we would have like these huge, competitions or whatever.
Hmm.
And then they would be like they would do the superlatives, the most likely to become this or that or whatever. There was one, this was with all the freshmen, and they had all the start teams like in their teams and stuff, and they were giving out awards, and they gave an award to me for some reason. And like I still think about this, not every day, maybe once a month or something,
Hmm.
since college. And it said the most likely to become the next, the future Valley Forge president. And so I always think about that, man. And maybe
Hmm.
I wouldn't be the president, but maybe I would be something at Valley Forge, maybe a professor or an RD or something like that. And I would actually like it because and I would actually ask, hey, can I live on campus in 24 down? Because from what we hear and what we've
Uh-huh.
seen, 24 down is like a storage unit now.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
When I interviewed, I asked, and she told me that it
Wow.
was, they were transitioning to it because I think there's less students on campus,
Yeah.
and so they didn't need the space or whatever.
How many
And
students
she
are they
said, and
running?
some people aren't happy about that. That's what she told me. And
Yeah.
and I thought of you right away. I was like, maybe Buddha found out and he was mad.
Yo, man, we should write letters. We're trying to see, okay, so the Carlos episode just came out today. And I mean, this is probably a week later, but it just came out. And Carlos, he actually has a business where he like buys and rents out property. So we're trying to see if we can make
Hmm.
a deal in buying the 24 and renting it out and also having it as like a vacation home for all us 24 downers, That's what we're looking
Interesting.
at. Yeah.
No, but I totally see that
Yeah.
you doing that.
Yeah, man.
And I was actually a start team leader, the rest of my school. I mean, I
Oh,
really
wow.
enjoyed, start teams and my first year at 24 down. I mean, we all came back. I mean, but most of us,
Yeah.
the next year, even though we initially were like, oh, the Buongiorno was nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We were always talking about maybe going somewhere else,
Hmm.
and then a lot of us stayed, man. And and I know, even there's some people that went over to four because they wanted their own bathrooms, just like you. It wasn't just
Wait,
also they wanted some
Ronell
privacy.
he had gone he went just for his second year. He was already over there, and so he was roommates with Kyle
Really?
his first year. Yeah, or he
He
just
left,
knew
I
him.
think. I think he
They
knew
were
him. They
his,
were
yeah, like
church or something,
they knew each other from church, and
school
so
or something. Yeah.
That's Mike's church too. So that's how
Oh,
I met Mike, and through Ronell
yeah.
indirectly.
Yeah, I remember he would say, "Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy," and everything. Yeah. But like, he hit the jackpot with his wife, man. She's such a little cutie, man. I'm telling you. I would always think you would end up with
She
her
was so
just be
nice. She was
yeah,
really
she
nice.
is. Yeah. It's crazy, bro. But yeah, man, let's get into these questions, man. So some of these people you will remember, some of them you won't. If you remember them, you could say you remember them. If you don't, just
Hmm.
but do you remember Colleen? Colleen is actually,
Yeah,
if
of
you see her,
course.
yeah, she's right here.
Yeah, I
And
remember her.
so, yeah. So here's a couple questions from Colleen. If you could have changed one thing at Valley Forge while you were there, what would it have been? It could have been a rule or something you didn't do or did do or chapel, just something that you would have changed.
Now, are these are she asks anybody that comes on, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think sometimes she asks this to some people. She doesn't ask them all the time, but these are just questions that we got compiled for you today.
Okay, sounds good.
It's really
Um,
just for you.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what so it's a rule.
It could be a rule. It could be an experience. It could be whatever, man. And I put an
Hmm,
experience there if you want to share an experience.
right. Well, I mean, do you remember our first year there was a curfew?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I wish the first year there was no curfew.
I think you would be running back, wouldn't you?
What do you mean?
Would you
Yeah,
be?
I would run back. Yeah,
What
because
were you
yeah.
doing? I don't remember. What were you doing?
Um, I was probably hanging out with people, probably hanging out with a girl.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing, right? What was it? One
Yeah,
o'clock.
you
One
had to like
o'clock per
run, and then
curfew.
sometimes you had to get like your friend bring you in. But I mean, I was really only a few minutes late. Usually, I wasn't like a big
I think one time I
rule
let you in.
breaker.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
time I let you in because there was 11 o'clock quiet hours, but there was 1 o'clock curfew. You had to be back.
Hmm.
But pretty much we had Daryl, which he actually we had him on the podcast. I don't know if you listened to his,
I didn't
but
get to do it
yeah,
yet.
man, yeah,
I've been kind of going through. I was on Matthias, but I didn't finish Matthias.
cool, yeah, yeah,
And so, but I listened to Pete's. I listened to Samsung's. I
yeah,
listened to Tim's
yeah,
and yours. So I've been
yeah, man.
moving through it.
After you get the people that go through the
Yeah,
ones you don't know because
exactly.
because also a lot of people that don't know you are going to listen to yours, so get to know them because there are very people have had very different experiences at Valley Forge.
Hmm.
It's not the same experience that you had, that I had, and I had a pretty positive experience. And
Hmm.
I almost could say that I love Valley Forge, and because I had just such a great experience there. Part of it, yes, is 24 down, but part of it is the larger community at Valley Forge. And I actually used to hold Don Meyer in very high regard and respect and
Hmm.
honor. But then when I hear some of the stories that are shared on this podcast, things
Hmm.
that he has said and done. I don't like. But at the same time, I still have some kind of respect for him. But yeah, definitely, it's just crazy. So you would change the curfew, and thank God they did change it the next year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
they
was
got rid of it.
crazy. We weren't used to that.
Yeah, they
People
treated us
were
like
up all
babies, bro.
night.
Yeah,
People were
yeah.
up all night. Grades were plummeting down. People were sleeping on the sidewalks.
Oh
It
man.
was crazy those first few semesters.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
man.
but it was
Run,
fun.
running
I was one of
wild.
those people. Not that I slept out in the street, but I was up all night,
Wow.
and that's when I was most social. I was kind of like, and Mike was just along for the ride. He was just really quiet when I first met him, and he was just kind of, we just hung out. He listened to, I think he was my first therapist. He just listened to
That's
everything I
cool.
was saying, what I was going through, and then it became more of a, mutual, just like, uh, friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. And then she says, what was your worst memory of 24 down? And what
Oh
was
yeah,
your best
sorry.
memory? Yeah.
One last thing, the food. I wish I could go back and change the food company
Hmm.
because I feel like that destroyed my stomach. I
Yeah.
had stomach issues ever since,
Wow.
and
That's
I
crazy.
think it made me lactose intolerant because I
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
lactose intolerant before I went to Valley Forge, but when I got there and I went through there, then I became lactose intolerant.
That's pretty serious, man.
Yeah,
That's crazy. So,
Sodexo will kill your body.
yeah.
My brother worked at Lehigh Valley Hospital and they used Sodexo, and he has similar issues now. It
Wow.
messed up his stomach.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. She says here for our next one, what was your worst memory of 24 down, and what was your best memory of 24 down?
Hmm. I guess my worst memory was when everyone got kicked out our first year. Um,
Explain that situation a little bit.
sure. And not everyone, but several people that lived on the floor, and a few people that lived, on other floors, but they were kind of like our part of our group that we hung out with. We kind of instituted all that stuff, the similar things that you guys continued, dress up to chapel. Some of us ate together. Maybe obviously it wasn't, the whole table, but it was, it was good times. And I guess a few of them, they decided to go to a club, and it was kind of like the worst kept secret. So a lot of people knew. The administration got wind of it, and then they got, I think somebody that was there kind of snitched on everything that occurred while they were there. I was asked to go, but I wasn't into that. I wasn't that kind of rule breaker, and so that wasn't my scene. So, um, and there was some underage drinking, and so and some things that were going on in the
The hotel room.
hotel room. Yeah, and so they ended up being kicked out. I friends with Fraz on Facebook, and he wrote a post one time, kind of thanking the crew at the time, that was something that led him to change his life, and it was something that turned into a positive for him. But I remember at the time it was really sad. Those are people that I was getting close to, and we were, I cared about them, and so that was a sad time. Um, that they had to leave.
Yeah, man, that was the moment that I realized. I had the realization that nobody's perfect. Even though we
Hmm.
know this, it was just the realization no one's perfect.
Yeah,
And oh man,
we
like
still gotta love them and not
yeah, yeah,
judge them.
definitely. And it also popped the bubble that I thought that Valley Forge was a like a Christian utopia. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I couldn't believe something like that happened. And that happened what in like the first 3-4 weeks maybe. Like we were
Um,
maybe 5-6 weeks or something like that,
I
right?
don't know. I don't know. I mean, it was the first semester, I think,
Yeah.
but I would hope it wasn't that
I
quick.
think
But
it
I
was. It was
honestly can't remember.
the most six weeks. The most
I
six
mean,
weeks.
especially when you're a freshman, like you really get to know people because you're like with them every single moment.
Yeah. So like a
And
day is
so
like a
so
week. Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, it felt like I knew these people for like years. Well, not years, but
Yeah. At
months and
least
months and months.
exactly.
Yeah,
And how awesome is his name, Frasinelli? Like we called him Fraz.
yeah,
Now I don't remember. I know he either came back the next semester or he just visited here and there. Did
yeah.
he came back?
No, he visited
Okay.
sometimes. He was close with some people, and then I would see him when he came.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was a really cool guy. Like
and then
it was really
actually,
sad.
some of the people that got kicked out ended up getting a place together,
Oh wow.
and they were like tight for a little while, and they had this whole like they were really tight, and
Do you remember, and we can edit it out if you want to. Do you remember the members that were part of that were part of 24 down? Because I remember Frasinelli, he was 24 up. He probably would have came downstairs after if
Mhm.
he was still there. I don't remember. I remember that Ronell had a was Joe part of it? Ronell's roommate Joe or no? Because Ronell
Was
had a
he the
room
one
by
that
himself
was
for
of
a
Asian
while.
descent?
No. Was there a guy of Asian descent
Yeah,
that
he was, and he lived on our floor.
I
I
don't
can't
even
remember his name.
I don't even remember, man.
Sam? I don't know.
Oh man. I wish I remembered.
Yeah, so it was him. There was this one. Yeah, I think his name might have been Joe. He had the tattoos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Black hair.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh,
It
so he
was
was there. Okay.
him and the and Mac and that Asian guy. They were the three that ended up getting a place together,
I don't know why
and they
I
were
don't
all on.
remember
They were
Mac.
all from 24.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember us. We were like, oh, we're 24 down. Like we were just proud. Even in that first semester with those guys and other people, obviously on the floor too.
And then they got kicked
Because
out. Wow.
yeah, because
Yeah.
Matthias was on our floor. Pete, Neil.
Yeah.
I remember you guys talking about him and losing his
Uh-huh.
hair, and I remember
Yeah.
all that. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Him and his Ohio
Yeah. Exactly.
Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of guys that still, they stayed around, yeah, that we know.
Yeah.
Um yeah, man, I miss Ronell. We got to get Ronell on here cuz I was in his wedding, man. He picked me to be his I was his best man.
Oh
Can you believe
wow,
that? And I knew him just for
I
like a
remember that. Yeah.
year and a half. Yeah, it was pretty
Hmm.
crazy. And Pete was in the wedding as well. I was like the
Hmm.
first 24 down wedding. Also, it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. So, her last question is, when are you getting the 24 down tattoo? Are you into tattoos?
No. I.
A couple of us have it. I don't have it, but
Uh-huh.
there's a 24 down tattoo out there.
I don't do tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just not. I mean, I don't have anything against other people doing it.
Hmm.
It's just something I don't know. I feel like when I'm old and it's gonna be all wrinkly, and I'm gonna be like, man, it looks terrible now.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's just not my thing. It never has been.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just me.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Um, the next questions are actually from the founder and creator of the podcast, Josh Hatmaker, and
Hmm.
he asks, how different is the culture at Valley Forge today versus back in our day? Examples: dress code, rated R movies, drinking, with family on breaks, fines for anything and everything, etc. Has it relaxed? And if so, what are some examples? Now, I know you're not a professor on campus, but can you speak to the culture? Is it different? Does it feel different? Things like that.
Hmm. I wish I knew. I don't know too much of how it's different. Um, when I interviewed, she told me some stuff. I guess there was some issues with racial relations and things like that. Which I would say that was present when we were there too. Just some people just didn't know. They didn't have that much experience with people that were of other backgrounds, and so sometimes the comment things would be said that aren't really
Woke.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
pretty much ignorant white people.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But at the time, I mean, I
Yeah.
never, I wasn't like mad at them. Like I understood, and I had, this wasn't my first exposure to people from Pennsylvania. So, I mean, it was different though. When I lived in Allentown, there was some diversity, but it was different than in New York because it was just really people, Caucasian people and then people from Puerto Rico. That's how it was in Allentown. There wasn't anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe a few Syrian people
Hmm.
from the Middle East, and that was it. And so New Rochelle is like obviously you heard it was like the hub for COVID. It was the
Hmm.
first area at all. I wasn't surprised by that because there's so many people from everywhere. There's a huge Jewish population. They have people that work in New York City, people that I'm sure travel for work. There's a huge, large Italian population. There's Mexican population. There's people from India, China, Colombia, Brazil,
Yeah.
Portugal. It's just every single country you can think of is represented by, at least at the time when I lived there, and that's how my high school was. That's what I'm used to. And so when I went to when I moved to Pennsylvania that one year in my senior year, it was like a culture shock. And then so Valley Forge was a little bit, but you know there was diversity at 24, so
Yeah.
at least there was in that way, but the rest of the campus wasn't too diverse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least you had, Franco there and you had me because pretty much, yes, I'm white, but I'm Yonkers white. I'm like New York City white, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah,
said, New Row and Yonkers are very similar in, the cultures that we have, and it's just very culturally rich. So that's how a person like you can marry a white woman, right? She's white. And then
yes,
a
she is.
person like me can marry a black woman and things like that. So it's pretty cool. um
Definitely.
yeah, the next question is the basketball team still more important than spiritual growth of the students? You said I don't have to ask that one because I don't know if you remember, but they would be playing some, I know Hot 97. I don't know if everyone else knows that, but like
I know
rap,
what that
hip
is.
hop, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And so like, they would be playing that when they're, pretty much, working out, doing stuff.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Do you know anything about the football team, basketball team at all?
I know that they don't have Coach Mack, and so what and I know you guys touched on this on some of the podcasts, and then like the one where you guys were all in, which I didn't get to listen to the whole way through. Yeah, or maybe I did listen to it. I can't remember now if I ended up finishing that or not. But yeah, there was like some financial issues, and so Dr. Kim, I think that's the president. I should know
Mm-hmm.
that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not. Maybe that's not even his last name.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, he seems like a really great guy, and so it seems like they're working through it, but yeah, I think they still have some issues with finances, and so I forget what your question was. I'm sorry.
Nah, it was just a funny
Oh,
question.
so the basketball team, yeah.
Yeah.
So they had let him go and stuff. So I don't think that that's as much of a focus now. I think they are trying to work on building the academics and spiritual growth.
That's good.
That's what it seems like to me. And I think there was a big emphasis on sports. They thought that would going to bring in more. I mean, I don't know. I never heard anyone verbalize that, but it did seem like a strategy, and it was it didn't seem like the
Mm-hmm.
best idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you remember Henry?
Oh yeah, of course.
We're
I
trying to
remember
we're
Andrew.
trying to contact him, bro. We're trying to
When I moved to
somehow.
4 down, I mean, I never really saw him then because he doesn't come in and clean. You have to clean your
Yeah.
own bathroom,
Oh
and
yeah.
so I didn't see him as much. But I mean, I would come visit you guys. Not all the way through because I was I would go away on the weekends then
Yeah.
to Mike's house because his dad was a pastor, and so we'd go to
Hmm.
we'd stay at his house, and we'd go to church the night on Sundays, and so I wasn't on campus that much during the weekends. But I mean, I think that that first year after I left, I would come visit and I would come to your room and
Hmm.
see
Definitely.
you and Walter, and then I think even the year after that
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
No, I remember you coming by every once in a while. I remember
Yeah.
that. Definitely do. And then his last one is, and this is actually, do you remember Carl Wolf, aka Wolfie?
Yeah, of course.
Remember? Yeah, yeah, cool. So he usually asks this to everyone. If you could have any building besides 24 named after you, which one would it be and why?
Um, I
Would it
guess
be?
it would. What was that?
I was gonna say, would it be 4?
No, no. Um, yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't have any like, oh man, four down. Like I don't have any like any. There wasn't any like, and that was part of why I was drawn to go there, because like the year before I went there, it seemed like they were like, they were like they had like this thing going, four down, and they had like these cool shirts and stuff, and so it was that, and also Ronell had been there, and Kyle had been there. We thought we were just gonna hang out with them a lot, but it just ended up just being me and Mike, and then just kind of going to every single building in Valley Forge, and I would be talking to lots of girls, not in like a inappropriate way or anything like that, but I just made like a, a lot of friends, and I had gone through a breakup the year before, and so I was still kind of like working through that, and so the way I dealt with that was, just like just being busy and like hanging out with lots of people. And it was really cool. It was really fun. And it worked out that there was no curfew. And so I was just like being extremely social that year for sure. And probably wasn't even on the floor that much because of that, even in that first semester that I was still there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just with Mike, and Mike was just along for the ride. He didn't talk much at all to like
Yeah.
all these girls I was talking to, it wasn't like I even liked these girls. It was just like, friends, and some of them were guys, and so like I would hang out with just a bunch of different groups of people, like depending on the night, and it was just like it was a lot of fun. But eventually it came to an end, and I was kind of just more hanging out with my group of friends then.
Cool. Do
Yeah.
you teaching, obviously you're doing online. Do you ever have to go to Valley Forge on campus for anything like job training wise or anything like that?
No,
So pretty much it's just
just my orientation. So I got a
okay.
picture, and I have a badge that says faculty on it and my name on it, and I still have it. I don't have it on me right now. It's in my wallet downstairs. But that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
But no, I haven't. They just went through. This is their second department head, maybe third, in the psychology department, and so that's part of it. I think the one that just took over, she might be looking into ways that she wants to utilize me more with maybe some in-person stuff, like maybe like uh, talking to people that are going to graduate soon, or
Mhm.
just kind of maybe connecting me with some uh, current students or soon to be graduates, so kind of connect me a little more, but no, I haven't.
Yeah.
And I guess back to the question about naming a building, I guess it would have to be the library, because I just remember a lot of memories. Maybe not even the library; those side rooms that were like soundproof.
Mhm.
Just like hanging out with people in there, and like doing like,
What you be
you know
doing in there, man?
no,
I just
nothing inappropriate, nothing inappropriate, but
yeah, I know
like
what you mean.
writing a 10-12 page paper in one day,
Yeah.
and just like being in there all day, going to get some food and then coming back, listening to some music on your headphones, and it was just fun. It was just good times.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So I would say one of those, the first side room, or the second one, maybe all of them. Just,
Mhm.
John Perez side rooms.
That's cool, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome. In one of those rooms one time, it was me, Tim, and just one female student that will go unnamed. And we were doing a children's ministry project, and we were really trying to just, first we were talking a little bit, and then we were trying to get into like doing the project. And then out of nowhere, this girl just starts like talking like really perverted to us. And like this girl I thought was like very spiritual and everything, and she's like, and me and Tim were just like sitting there, and then we just try to keep on getting her to say a lot of these things, because she just got out of a like a big time relationship on campus. And we were like, whoa, I can't believe she's like talking like this and stuff. It was really weird. I think we still got our work done. Nothing really crazy happened, but yeah, they had those really small windows in those side rooms.
Was she like, so she was in those rooms with you and you
Okay,
were
so
doing a project
yes,
together,
yes.
and then she was it like a proposition?
Nah, almost, but not really. She just started
That's so
talking like
weird.
really, really like perverted, and I didn't think I would ever hear that from her. You know what I mean? But we're all sexual beings, and everything. But I couldn't believe that. She's in a room with like just two other guys, and I'll just say I won't say her name out loud, but she did. She was in a long relationship with Shauno Oniante, I think his name is Shauno. Remember Shauno, the Asian guy?
Yeah,
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 and
but I can't.
yeah, she was with him for probably about a year or more, a very long time. She's married to someone else now that went to Valley Forge as
Uh-huh.
well, but I'll tell you after the
Oh,
podcast. Yeah. But yeah, man, so pretty crazy. So I don't know if you remember the
so
Brazilian
odd.
twins. Do you remember the Brazilian twins?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know when they got there, but I feel like I don't know. I connected with them, and
Yeah,
we were cool. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think we hung out like tons of times, but I remember being chill with them. I don't
definitely.
know when they got there. I feel like maybe they were there when I was
It was
there.
our third year. It was our third year when they
Ah,
got there.
okay. So I
Yeah,
must have just like
yeah,
connected
definitely.
with them just because I did,
They were,
I did know some people.
yeah.
Yeah.
You knew everyone, man. So, but he says, if my memory serves me right, didn't you work in the bookstore?
No,
Okay. Did
no.
you work anywhere else on campus?
No, I wasn't allowed to work anywhere on campus. So
Okay.
so when I started going there to Valley Forge, I when I applied, I let them know my whole situation. They had to call around to some other AG schools in Texas just to see, are we legally allowed to have this guy be in our school? Like accept him, and like we won't get any legal ramifications from it. And so they called around and then they got back to me and they were like, hey, we're good, um, we don't have any legal obligation to, turn you in or I mean, I don't think they would have done that, but we can't, we're not going to deny you just because you don't have the legal status. And so I definitely couldn't work on campus. So I never tried. But Lise, she worked at the bookstore. And so since, I was
So you
tight
were
with
there a
her,
lot. So you were there a
yeah,
lot. Okay.
yeah. And Mike knows this, so I mean I don't have to, and my wife knows this too. I liked Elise when I first started at Valley Forge. Pete knows this, and she ended up dating some other guy on campus second semester, but I was always friends with her. We stayed friends, and then when she got out of that relationship, she reached out to me as a friend, and we started hanging out, and then since I hung out with Mike, she hung out with Mike. She actually went to his church anyway, the church that his dad started pastoring in Wilmington, Delaware. She's from Wilmington, Delaware. And so that was another kind of reason why we started hanging out as well. But it was mostly because she knew me and she liked me, as a friend. And I didn't like her anymore in that way, even though, she's, pretty person and stuff. But uh, and then so I started seeing a connection, and I was like, Mike, do you like Elise? And so then he told me, and so like I hooked it up by talking him up for like months to Elise, and I
Mhm.
would like bug her and be like, you do like him, you do like him. She's like, no, I like him as a friend, and then eventually she said, yeah, I do, or it blossomed. It took several months, but it happened. I made that happen, and then they
Mhm.
just made a baby recently, so I take responsibility for
That's awesome, man.
that.
No, that's cool. And his last thing he wanted to say is, I never knew John personally, but I do remember occasionally walking by and seeing him and saying, "Hi, what's up?" And him always smiling and being happy and always seemed like a happy-go-lucky person, down to earth, stand-up guy. I wish I could have gotten to know him more. And he says he blames Josh Hatmaker for tying his time up too much with Carlos pranks, because we put Carlos through a lot of stuff. You probably heard our
Who was it
podcast.
that said that?
That's Junior.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I always like talking to them too. They were cool. I think it was, you're like, they were Brazilian. I'm
Hmm.
Colombian. Us
Yeah.
South Americans have to stick together.
Hmm.
And so, they were always cool too. I like them, and I remember the English twins too. And Samsung, because I was there when he first got there,
Hmm.
and so I remember, just what a funny guy he was. I really liked his podcast a lot.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah, man, those are all the questions, but we do have a couple of things to discuss, and we have some more time. So, I know you wanted to kind of bring up, and like I said, we can edit anything, but I know you wanted to bring up the breakup. So I'm gonna let you tell that story.
Sure. So like many fellow people that attended Valley Forge at one point or another, I got into a relationship that was quick. You get to know someone really quick when you're a Valley Forge, especially when you're a freshman. You don't know any better. And so they always tell you, hey, don't get into a relationship your freshman year. And so, especially first semester, I would say the whole year, don't get in a relationship. Some people do end up meeting their spouse, their future spouse, and that's great. They got lucky, and that's the way God wanted, meant it to be. But I also hear stories of hey, some of those relationships didn't make it. Now I hear that they're divorced, and it just makes me so sad, when that happens. But anyway, the breakup. So I ended up. So I met a girl there, and while I was, my first year, and then we officially started dating second semester, but we were pretty much dating before then. And so yeah, it my first love, and but I really didn't know her long enough to really start feeling those things. But you get kind of wrapped up in feelings, and I think it was a good experience in that it led me to see what my calling was, and that I wasn't in the major I needed to be in, and that I really needed to focus on um, healing myself from my family baggage and things I went through. And it gave showed me, hey, you have more of a passion to help others because you've been through some things, and it led me to some positive things. But at the time, it was extremely devastating. And so I remember when it first went down, we were on I was working at Chick-fil-A, and she would drive me to Chick-fil-A, and then that's when she told me, hey, I feel like things that have been going on in this relationship aren't, and she was crying. It was sad for both of us at the time, and so um, it was hard. I couldn't stay at work. I ended up getting a ride with someone else that worked at Chick-fil-A that also lived at Valley Forge, or went to Valley Forge. Um, Carrie, I forget her last name. She actually works at Valley Forge now. Um, and so she drove me home, and I couldn't even stay at work. It was just really devastating. And I don't know if I went to you that same night or that same day. I probably did. Maybe I was wearing Chick-fil-A clothes. I don't know.
Yeah, bro. Because the way I remember it, I thought you were wearing Wendy's clothes, but now, yeah, you were wearing Chick-fil-A. I remember you smelled like some kind of fast food, and I remember you were wearing a fast food uniform, and
Yeah.
and then I didn't have my car my first semester, so this was second semester, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because now I had my car. It was my first car. It was a crappy car, but it was my car. And I remember you were like, that you needed to talk to me. So I said, yo, let's go out to the car because you looked really bad. And so, I sat in the
Oh, I didn't
driver's
know it
seat.
was in the car.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sat in the driver's seat. You sat in the passenger seat, and
What?
yeah, man, you just poured your heart out, man. And it was like a good 5 to 10 minutes of you pouring your heart out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure I did some ugly crying.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a lot of tears on my shoulder, but yo, man, that is 24 down, bro.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brotherhood.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have been there. So that was my one experience like that. And
Yeah.
your heart hurts. I don't know. I remember it differently. I thought we were in your room, but I think there was maybe a couple sessions of me crying or something. Because I
Maybe.
remember being in the room and then I was like, I didn't do that.
Yep, yep. That was the that's when you started really
That was the
crying. Then you're
quote.
like, I didn't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was that I didn't do things the right way,
Yeah,
the way that I should have. Not that I, did anything to
yeah,
her, that was,
yeah,
it was more just like,
yeah.
that I felt bad that we
It
didn't,
didn't work out. Yeah,
yeah, that didn't work out, and that, that I didn't do it God's way, of doing things the right way,
yeah.
of
Because
like, making sure I was ready to feel the things I was feeling and the things that were
exactly,
happening.
because it just came to my head. I don't know why it didn't come to my head earlier, but it's like it when you first get on campus, you hear that phrase "ring by spring." And so everyone was looking for the relationship that would start in the first or early in the second semester, and then you would get asked to be married by springtime. And every relationship that you're in on that campus, you wanted to end in marriage. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's probably what you were looking for as well. And nice girl and everything and stuff like that. We won't say her name, but like going forward, I heard that she did date some other people along the way in her Valley Forge days, and from what I hear from other people, she was I think the word is crazy. That she was kind of crazy. Did you experience that at all from her?
No,
Okay, that's good.
no. I don't think so. What do you mean?
I don't know.
Crazy can mean a lot of things.
It
Do
could
they mean like
kind of mental.
kind of mental? Interesting.
Maybe you
Yeah.
just made her crazy with your love, man.
Well, I mean, she did share some things of some things she went through,
Okay.
like, I mean, but I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
not anything like terrible, but just like different difficulties people have in general. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I didn't really have that mindset. I mean, that was always my dream is to, meet the person God had for me. And I think we all kind of thought that way, at times, especially if you're going to that school, you hear that. But it's also, a desire God gives you is to meet that person that, he has for you. And that,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I think I learned through that there is like, that's a flawed thinking. And this is partially from what I heard from Dr. Hall,
Mhm.
because I went to see him too,
Mhm.
was, the idea of the one, it's flawed. Not that God doesn't have one person for you, or that there isn't someone that, you're meant to be with. Um, but the fact that, sometimes, somebody can be married and then when their spouse dies and they're still young, does that mean that there's no one else out there for them? That was the example Dr. Hall
Mhm.
gave. And so, there's that. And also, he believed, you could be compatible with lots of different people.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of the choice of, where God, what choices you make where you're at in life, you're in his will. And then you meet the person that, you know, is compatible with you, and you have to make it work then if you choose to get married. And so, that helped me at the time because I was pretty sure that that was it. And so it helped me to see, like, maybe I'm not completely right, obviously. And I just think it sets people up into thinking, well, this is it. And
Mhm.
so it prematurely.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that was the philosophy that we all grew up on.
Hmm.
And with Disney movies and things like that as well, and we were all taught, I'm looking for the one. When am I going to find the one? And
Yeah.
you hear that here and there these days, but Dr. Hall, I remember, took a lot of flack from students and other people when he would have these love seminars. Remember the love chapels or whatever it was?
Oh yeah,
People would
definitely.
get heated with him because he was actually teaching that, and it wasn't the philosophy of the day. Now, if you look now, it kind of is the philosophy of the day. We have accepted it, and yeah, it's definitely true. I do believe
Hmm.
that you can be compatible with more than one person. Because like if I didn't marry my wife and I move from here, I have to find someone else, or not have to, but I would want to. So yeah, definitely that was big.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know this next story is you were hungry, I think, one time, and you and Pete were together. What'd you guys do?
All right. So me and Pete we had some good times. We were both business majors when we first started, and we're at this new school, and we live on the same floor. We're going to every single class together because they make your schedule, and we have the same major, and so it was pretty much every class. First semester and second semester. And then I changed my major, so then that kind of changed. But we had some good times, and so I remember me, you, and him. We went down to his house, and his mom made this yummy, like corn thing, casserole thing, and we like slept over, and then we were like hanging out in some basement. I don't know if it was his basement or somebody else's basement, but it was fun. I'm pretty sure you were there. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
You were there.
Maybe I was.
Yeah, and
I remember getting to know his mom and dad pretty well, and we actually still
yeah,
talk on Facebook, which is funny.
that's cool. I don't think they remember me because I only went the one time, um, but anyway, so one night we were hungry. I don't know if it was like, and he's like, I'm like, man, I'm hungry, and he's like, yeah, me too. And I don't know if he spotted it or if I spotted it, but there was a sandwich. The back porch has like those sandwiches that they come in like this clear plastic,
Yeah,
container that
yeah,
you
yeah.
can
Kind of
close.
plastic. Yeah, yeah.
So there was like it wasn't a sandwich, it was a wrap. There was a wrap, and it was like at the top of the trash can, but it was like in the trash can on the floor, 24 down floor in one of the trash cans in the hallway, and it was uneaten. So there wasn't any like bite marks or anything on it, but obviously someone ate the other half, and then they threw it in the trash, and then me and Pete noticed it. I feel like he noticed it, and or I don't know, and we grabbed it and we ate it together. And so now looking back on them, like how gross is that? I mean, that person could have touched it. They could have like licked it. I don't know, maybe not, but it
Hmm.
was in the trash and we ate it.
Yeah.
Another thing that I remember with Pete was during open, what is it called? Open floor. What is that?
Open dorm or something.
Open dorm. And the one night, you put movies on, have your door open. So the one night, me and him watched The Notebook. There was no girls there. It was just me and him. And then I feel like it was Tim or it was his roommate. What was his name? Sean.
Oh, Toby.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toby
Sean and
came in.
Toby. Yeah, yeah,
It might have been both Tim and Toby. And
yeah.
he was like, they were like, "What are you guys doing?" And we just look back. We're like, "We're watching The Notebook." It was the
I
first time I
remember
ever
that.
seen the movie. I saw the movie with Pete, Pete
Yeah.
Sensining, and it was just his first time watching it too.
I remember coming by the room and I didn't want to go in because I thought, it's a love story. It's kind of a girly movie. I didn't go in.
Nah, man, I love chick flicks.
Nah, that's cool, man. I mean, Pete was like that. He was just like, this guy from the countryside or something that would just
Hmm.
eat food out of the garbage. So yeah, you definitely learn a lot when you come together like that.
Definitely.
So on episode 24, I told, and if you haven't heard it, you want to go in it. It's kind of, I think it's right after the first hour, but I tell a story of an umbrella, my butt, and Tim and Ronell. I just want to know what you remember from that. I know you weren't in the room when it happened. However, we probably were going to dinner to get all together at that time, but I didn't go to dinner that night. Do you remember anything about it?
I think I do. I mean, and man, I laughed so hard when you were telling it because I listened to at least to that part of the podcast, and I was laughing so hard. Not that I like, I mean, it was terrible at the time. I was not laughing. I don't think when you told me about it because I was like, what? He did that? And so you were so bad. You were like, I think he's gay, and you were just like so bad, and like and I was like, man, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I said or what else was said, but I just remember you were really like, I didn't think you would ever be friends with them. You know,
Yeah,
it
man.
was a terrible thing.
Bro,
And
when I tell
yeah,
you it hurt, it really hurt. I don't think I've ever felt pain like that again in my life before that or after that. like, I have to show you the umbrella. I think I have it somewhere in my house still. I'm not sure,
What?
but yeah, I'm telling you, my finger here, okay, it was the spike part, the tip was as long as my finger
I
and
should
went
not be
up my
laughing.
butt. No, you can laugh, bro, it's fine. It went up my butt, it went through my pants, through my underwear, straight up my butt. It didn't even touch my butt cheeks. It just, they got it straight up the butthole. I'm happy you have earphones and ear.
So,
Yeah.
so it was Ronell too?
Yeah, they both took it. I'm bending over. They both take it with both hands and they jam it up my butt. Okay? Like, what the frig? Like, who does that? Who does that? And it
I
wasn't even
think
like one person was holding back. They both went full force. Maybe they thought the other one was going to hold back, but they went full force up my butt. And I immediately went, "Oh!" And I yelled out and I ran to the bathroom. And I really felt like I was raped, bro. I really did. Like, I was in my room with a lamp on. It was like low light and everything. It was the worst, one of the worst times of my life.
I think
I think I need some therapy about this, bro.
yeah. Yeah, if you were my client, I think I'd be able to control it, but because I remember when it went down and when you were telling the story on the podcast, they would like all came back to me because I hadn't thought about that in years.
Mm-hmm.
And um but yeah, I do remember when that happened. And yeah, I think you even said that. Who does that? Who
Yeah.
does that?
Yeah, bro. And so, yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, we became really good friends, and I'm in Ronell's wedding,
Oh,
and
Tim's is good people.
yeah, Tim is great. He oh my gosh, he's changed a lot. He's gotten so mature. You hear his voice, man. His voice is like
Yeah,
a
I
man's
listened to his
voice.
podcast. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
It was nice
but
to, just hear him.
yeah, reminisce and stuff because
Yeah.
he was there when we started. But the funny thing about Tim is once you start talking about the things from college and the fun stuff, you kind of hear the Tim from college still. Like that. That's what I liked when I was hearing
Tim.
his voice. It was so funny. But
Yeah.
bro, you brought this up, man, and I have actually like one of the 24 down dress up days, and we probably did this all in all probably somewhere around 4 to 5, maybe 6 times. I don't think we did it more than that. Maybe we did it once or twice a semester or something. But
Hmm.
I forgot all about that. We actually started it in the first year, and you were part of it, and so we would just I can't believe we did it that first year, but there was so much we did that first year, and the memories are coming back and stuff. But yeah, we did our first 24 down dress up day our freshman year, which was pretty cool because you were part of it.
Yeah, first semester. I
Mhm.
feel like I don't know, it just kind of like spread. We're like, we're dressing up. We're dressing up for chapel tomorrow, maybe it was that. Yeah, it must have been the day before. And
Yeah,
so we're like, all right. And so we all went. And so some of those people that had kicked out, they were still there too. So they dressed up and everyone dressed up.
that's pretty big, man, to do that within the first month or two. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I didn't get too much pranks, especially like, some of the things Tim would do because my roommate was Franco.
oh
And
yeah,
so, no one really messed with him.
he was
So,
a
I mean, I
serious
was
guy.
thankful for that. Um, you know,
Yeah, he was a serious guy, and then you were just so likable. But he was serious, and his eyes were just piercing, beautiful eyes, but piercing eyes. We're actually going to have him on in a couple weeks, which is cool.
Really,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
But I mean, not that he was like a bad guy back then, but he was just
No,
more of a loner into himself. But me and him talking a couple weeks ago was just amazing. Just he's changed so much, he's matured so much, just as we have all. But like talking to you, not that it's a bad thing that you're the same. Obviously, you're not the same. You have grown and matured, but it's like talking to you back in freshman time, and it probably is the same for me and you. So
yeah. I mean, when I heard you, the podcast every time, and when we saw each other at Pete's wedding,
yeah.
definitely still the great personality you always had.
Yeah, man, that was a fun time at Pete's wedding because so many people were saying things about Pete and nothing about
Hmm.
his wife. It was so funny. Oh man.
But I think a few people did.
Yeah, a few people did, but they commented on it. They were like, I can't, she's good too. It's not just
Oh
him.
yeah, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
It was funny. So, bro, you brought up, that you want to talk about pooping together. Now, I know you had the Lysol stuff and everything, but tell me, because I just tell me the pooping stories.
Yeah, I mean, I think we only did it like once or twice. And then I think someone joined. So it was like a three, I don't know what the term is.
Yeah, we had pretty much like one dump, a double deuce for two, and then a triple threat or something like that, or a
Yeah, and
triple
I think
dump
I
or
think you
whatever.
called it that. You were like, hey, this is double deucing. I do this with Tim, or I don't know who is it that you did it with. And so I
Yeah,
was like, all right, let's do it.
I think
And
me and Tim
so
would usually go in. Yeah,
yeah, and so I was like, all right, let's do it.
yeah. I
Because I
think you
felt
were.
comfortable with you,
Yeah,
and and we had a good talk. It was a good talk during that.
yeah, because we were talking there and stuff, and it was
It
fun.
was in the bathroom, like on the other side.
Yeah,
So
where
when you
my
walk
room
in, it was
was.
on the left. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yeah. Because that was the one I usually used. Yeah, but yeah, man, it was when I grew up, it was always fun to like when you would going to the bathroom was a boring time because you were in there by yourself and it wasn't fun and
Hmm.
stuff. So one of my brothers would come in with me all the time, or I would go in with them. We would always ask each other. So it was kind of like that because we were brothers, it was a brotherhood. So we were just poop together. So it was a fun thing. And then I forgot that Daryl brought up in his episode we would actually find out when he was going to take a shower, and we would sneak in quietly and we would poop, and we would make it
Oh
smell
yeah,
really bad, and
I remember you telling me about that.
yeah, he
Yeah.
thought we didn't like him or something, but we were just pranking him. We were just getting on him and stuff, but that was really funny. But me and Tim would always be doing that stuff that first year.
I gotta listen to his podcast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, I think we covered everything, man, which is really awesome. Anything else that comes to your mind you want to share?
I don't know.
Don't worry, you don't have to think hard about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, you're a great guest. You are our first student slash professor at Valley Forge. That's amazing. And so we actually have maybe one or two more like faculty members that are actually on campus that can tell us a little bit more about the culture and stuff, and about
Oh,
the
cool.
transition from Don Meyer to Dr. Kim and things like that. So
Hmm.
but yo, man, you've been a great guest. You're awesome. I'm gonna give you the last word in just a bit. I'm going to do some plugs. Now I'm going to say a little something just to show you my appreciation of you coming on the podcast. And then I'm going to give you the last word. You can say something, you can pray, you can do whatever you want. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast on episode 26. Here's a couple podcast plugs. If you're looking for us, you can find us on Twitter at 24 Down Podcast. If you want to email us, we're at Gmail at 24downpodcast@gmail.com. We are on Facebook. We have two Facebook pages. The first one is 24 Down, and the other one is the 24 Down Podcast. Also, we're on YouTube at 24 Down as well, and we have so much merch. It's ridiculous. We almost have a shirt for just about half of us so far. I just ordered my Bucking Buddha shirt a couple weeks ago. It's just about here, and you can find all these shirts: 24 Down shirt, 24 Down podcast, and so many of the other shirts that we have out at storefrontier.com/24 down. That's storefrontier.com/24 down. But John, we kind of call you JPZ back in the day and all that stuff, and JP and whatnot. But John, it's awesome. Like I said before, you're pretty much living the dream, and I don't even care. I'm not even going to put American in there, but you're living the dream. I mean, coming to America at such a young age after a tragedy, growing up in New York, New Rochelle, going to PA, and going to Valley Forge, all all without, the documents that we all have here as citizens. But now you're a citizen, you're married, you got kids, you're an adjunct professor at Valley Forge, you're helping people by, through therapy and stuff like that. It's just an amazing thing, still living for God, and just an awesome guy all around. So thank you so much for being here. You're still my friend, even though we haven't talked that much. We've talked here and there over, Facebook and
I
Facebook
wish it was
message.
more, but it's
Yeah.
hard, the
Yeah, but man,
distance.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, man. Now you're back and you're part of the 24 Down family, and there's been a revival. And once this pandemic is over, we are having a get together. We're having a reunion. We will love you to be there. You can come yourself, or you can bring your wife and your kids. I'm trying to bring my wife and kids as well, but if not, I'll probably have a little bit more fun if my wife doesn't come. I may, even if it's outside, Bucking Buddha may come out. Do you remember Bucking Buddha?
I remember you guys talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much Bucking Buddha is me just holding my junk and being naked and running down the hallway after people. So that might happen at the reunion, but
Yeah.
I'm not giving that away. But yeah, man, I mean, those are my last words to you. You're an
Well,
awesome
and
guy.
and
Yeah,
the icy hot thing, I feel like I was on the floor. Maybe when was that?
that was with Samsung. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
his
you were
first
there.
semester.
Probably first semester. Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I wasn't on the floor when it actually happened, but I definitely heard
definitely
about
heard
it.
about it. Yeah, you were there.
And the
So
other,
yeah, man. Yeah, go ahead. Give us your last words, man.
uh, just, well, it's not quite my last words, but something you said made me remember. I remember you so always think that I looked Italian, um, and I was like, "Are you sure you're not Italian?" My brother actually did a 23andMe genetic whatever, those like
Hmm.
heritage tests.
Yeah.
And obviously my brother, we share the same mother and father, and so I don't think I look like Italian as much as I used to when I was younger, but it came up that we're like 20% or 20 something percent native Colombian. So, and
Okay.
it actually point out the exact region where my parents are from. So I think it's pretty accurate.
Hmm.
It's the same exact state of in Colombia. And then big percentage from Spain. So it was like 20 something percent as well, or 20%. But there was about 15 to 8 to, I think 10 to 15. I forget the percentage now, but it was Italian.
Wow.
And so I was like, oh, cool.
Buddha
So it
was
might be
right.
further. It might be further back,
Yeah.
but you were right about that a little bit.
There we go, man. My
Yeah.
Italian brother.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
cool, man. That's funny. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the floor, man.
Okay. Well, I think that it something that I wanted to share is something that Samsung said in his podcast. Actually, I think is really fitting to kind of what's going on these last few days with the election. Um, a president is for 4 to 8 years max, and I think it's really important during this time is that we don't um, stop being friends with people because of who they support. And it might be hard sometimes, especially how some of the things they're saying, but it's important to look past that and not let that become a division among you family members you might have, or those in your church, or even in your in the community of 24, friends you've had for a long time. The example he gave was like 10 years. Some of them might be longer. It's not worth it for somebody that's going to be president for 4 to 8 years. Both these last candidates are in their 70s. In 10 years from now they might not be alive. I'm not wishing that on anybody, or 15 years from now or 20 years from now. But they can only be president for 8 years max, and so that's just something to keep in mind. And we're still kind of in the height of the pandemic. There might be more. Winter's coming, and it might be harder to meet people. Depending on if numbers continue to rise. So just something I wanted to share is just continue to try to reach out to people. From what I'm hearing from some of the podcasts I'm hearing, people are connecting with people that they know from 24 and just the community that you guys have built. I think that's really amazing. And that was kind of my favorite thing about being at Valley Forge was that community aspect to it, that I first felt at 24, and then I kind of continued on to some friendships that, that were really impactful to me and helped me to kind of be myself, even though I felt like I couldn't really be fully myself because I couldn't share the immigration stuff. And there was always that fear that, if this person really knew that about me, would they look at me differently? Would they turn me in? There was some people at the school that, had views and I, maybe said some things about people that were immigrants. And so I wasn't always sure, how that would be reciprocated. And even the climate back then, things were said on the media against dreamers, against immigrants. And so, it was a real fear that I had. And it was something that I kept me from being open and being confident in myself, and something I internalized too, that I was like, this country that's like, I feel American and everything, but they don't accept me. And I feel like, I'm less than everyone else. And so that was something that I internalized, that definitely not how God viewed me. It's something that I had to work through the years as they came. But I guess we'll go back to what I was saying. I think it's important to, reach out to others, not isolate. And it might be harder in the winter, but, that's when you really should, text some people, FaceTime them. And they just think it's important to make sure that you're connecting with people, even though it's hard to see people in person, because if the pandemic continues to kind of go as it goes, and if there's like, you want to restrict yourself and be careful, that's understandable, but just make sure that you're reaching out to people, and that if you're struggling, depression, that you talk to someone about that. It's been a tough year with a lot of uncertainty, and there's grief that we all go through for, we weren't able to do this or that, graduations not being done, birthdays not going on trips, but even more serious things too. And so it is definitely adds stress when things are uncertain. But one thing that is certain is God and His love for us, and so something to just keep in mind, and reach out to other brothers and sisters in Christ.
Awesome, man. Spoken like a true counselor, bro. Got that? You got that counselor vibe. I mean, episode 26 is in the books. John Perez, student slash professor at UVF. But also, I want to end off the podcast with this. Years ago in 2005 now, because we started in 2004 and it became 2005, you said, I didn't do that. I'm going to tell you right now, bro, you did do that. You did do that. You made it, bro. You did it, bro. You found the girl. You had the kids. You're living the life, and I'm so happy, man. I'm so happy for you. So God bless you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I hope that the reunion between me and you and 24 Down doesn't stop here, but it keeps on going. So we definitely gotta stay in touch.
Sounds good. Yeah, praise God.
God bless, man.
Yeah. All right.